theme of the conversation of today is social entrepreneurship, building impactful entrepreneurship programs. We have lined up for you a rich panel that has a cross-sectional representation of stakeholders from E4Impact, the UN Global Compact, as well as AACOSE, a social enterprise, who will share their experience and programs in the African continent. So let me just take a few minutes to introduce to you the today. The first panelist is Alessia Jolas. And Alessia has been affiliated to the E4Impact Foundation since 2017, working as a business coach and a social impact expert. She has 4 years experience in mentoring startups, startup teams and entrepreneurs, both in Italy and in Kenya, helping organizations develop and manage social and environmental innovations, and to introduce impact accountability systems. So that's Alessia Jolas for you. The second panelist is Fabio Petroni, who started working with E4Impact, the E4Impact initiative since 2013 in Altis. And also in 2015, he became the director of programs at E4Impact Foundation. He is responsible for managing the E4Impact Alliance and developing impact entrepreneurship programs in African countries and beyond by coordinating institutions and academic capacity building. Welcome, Fabio. The third panelist is Judy. Judy is the executive director of UN Global Compact in Kenya, and she's responsible for providing strategic guidance to Global Compact Network within Kenya to entrench ethical and sustainable business practice in Kenya's private sector and brokering partnership to enhance sustainable development agenda. She oversees network membership of a base of about 1,000 businesses and non-business signatories to the UN Global Compact in Kenya and the Code of Ethics for Business in Kenya. Welcome, Judy. And lastly, we have Amin Sule, who is the founder of Zakol. And Zakol is an award-winning innovative startup company providing Africa or contributing to reducing global warming and a cleaner society in Africa, where in the world that has a quest to finding answers on how to manage climate change. Sule has solved this problem from an African perspective. Welcome, Amin Sule, and we'll be learning more about Zakol and the good work that Amin Sule is doing. And now, starting from Fabio, then followed by Judy, and then Amin Sule, we would like to ask you to share briefly on your organization's work, what you do, how you do it, and some impact you've had so far. Let's start with Fabio.
Thank you for the kind presentation, and thank you for having me in preparation of the Entrepreneurship, Social Entrepreneurship Conference in November, organized by Tangaza University College and Ashoka. I'll try to be as brief as possible. As David was saying, I work for the E4Impact Foundation, which is a spin-off of the Catholic University of Milan, the largest private university in Europe. And with the foundation, what we wanted to do is basically to achieve 3 goals. The first and most important of which is to train impact entrepreneurs in Africa to bring them to success and to have them deliver as much possible positive social and environmental impact. As we were trying to do this, and we have been working on this for 10 years, we realized that entrepreneurs as a learner is a very different animal. So first and foremost, the entrepreneur doesn't know that he has a learning need. They don't feel like they should educate themselves. They are in need of any capacity building. They don't have time to be spent in class. They come from different sectors. They have different ages, so their needs are very, very different. But at the same time, they need to achieve results quickly because they're running a business. Even though it is a social business, they need to be sustainable, and to be sustainable, they need to yield, fruits very quickly to be able to turn over. So eventually, we realized that if you want to educate entrepreneurs, you should abandon the whole concept of teaching. Even though we are a university, we realize teaching is not what we should be doing for entrepreneurs. We should rather train them. So we came up with the Global MBA in Entrepreneurship, which is the very program we have been implementing since 2010 when the E4 initiative was born. And we built this program around the four key pillars, which we're going to have a quick look at, plus the delivery of the international degree from the Catholic University of Milan. And this program was the first one to be awarded by Ashoka, the University Innovation Award, back in 2012. So the first component, the first pillar, is to adopt the blend formula. If you want to work with entrepreneurs, you cannot expect to have entrepreneurs stay in class, sit still for, let me say, a year or two and be taught entrepreneurship. You got to come up with a flexible model. And our flexible model is made of, as you can see, 10 class components for a total of 36 days, spread over a period of 12 to 18 months. And the rest is done online, or it is basically business development work. This way, entrepreneurs can really, join an acceleration program, a training program, without disconnecting, right, from their business. The second element is we shouldn't be looking at entrepreneurs as people who are in need to receive education, rather than people who need to receive business acceleration. So the whole methodology is not to give them knowledge, but is to build businesses together. So we came up with a training methodology, which is basically made of three components, or if you like, three phases. The phase one is ideate and solutions. So we don't go to an entrepreneur and say, this is a new concept you want to apply. We share with them tools, and we try to devise with them ideas and solutions that might be useful for them to grow or to start their business. So they basically make assumptions on how they can grow the business. The second step is field development. And this is when they try to test, validate that very ideas, and they try to put them to work. So there is a lot of field work which is done with our MBA program. And eventually the validation, which is when they come back to class, if you like, and they discuss with investors, experts, and try to confirm eventually that the solutions they're applying, they work. So as you can see, it's a very dynamic process whereby the most of the work is done in the field rather than in the class. The third pillar is business services. In recognition of the fact that we need to support entrepreneurs and not to teach entrepreneurship, we came up with 5 business services which are embedded into the MBA program. The first one is a business coach. This is very simple. It's a business consultant, which is going to spend time with you to support the implementation of your business. The second one is a series of sessions which we call networking for growth, which is when we make entrepreneurs meet with business consultants who can further speed up their development process or their startup process. The third one is what we call the which is basically the ability to generate links from across countries. As you will see in a second, we are present in 14 African countries, and this regional platform enables us to put entrepreneurs in touch with each other. So for example, we have Amin on board right now, and is going to speak with David in order to sell his products into Kenya. And this applies also to Italy. As we are an Italian institution, we have a deal with Confindustria, which is Italy's business association, and we do build links for African entrepreneurs with them, and eventually solutions. We have been around for 10 years in 14 countries, so we have put together a lot of solutions for African entrepreneurs we share with them. Investors relations, throughout the MBA program, what we are able to do is basically to create a lot of occasions for our entrepreneurs to talk to investors. So we organize basically 5 competitions with investors, but on top of that, we have created in every country a club of investors to which entrepreneurs can go and try to turn in a funding request. And eventually, we also have an investors database made of 150 names, more or less, that we can put our entrepreneurs in touch with upon request. Last but not least is the going global component, which in a COVID-19 period is a little tough to implement, but it's the idea of bringing the entrepreneurs we train to Italy once a year. Usually that happens in February. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we couldn't do that this year. We're doing it in December online, but business as usual. In a world without COVID, entrepreneurs will be coming to Milan. They will be spending a week in Milan, basically working with Italian entrepreneurs, meeting business associations, investors, and try to build an international network for themselves. Joseph Nkando is a typical produce of our business, so of our MBA program. So basically, a very successful entrepreneur who were able to turn all the learnings into the largest coffee manufacturer in Uganda. He started out as a farmer. He was able to aggregate other farmers, and then eventually he got into roasting and then into producing the final coffee package. Over the years, we trained 2,000 entrepreneurs. I will, as Alessio to highlight, is that this MBA program is now offered in 14 African countries, as you can see, soon to be 20, meaning that not only it is possible to work with entrepreneurs, but it's also possible to scale entrepreneurship program across the continent. To the extent that in 2019, we created an alliance of the African universities we work with to deliver the MBA program. It's an alliance of 20 plus universities across the continent, which collaborate together in order to train entrepreneurs. I hope I stayed in my 10 minutes, and I'll hand over to you, David.
Thanks very much, Fabio. Very, very good and brilliant and clear presentation. I'm sure some questions will emerge. How does someone or an institution become part of Alliance? How does an entrepreneur be part or join your program and so on? But these are questions which will emerge. I think the pillars are very clear on how it supports an entrepreneur who is studying or doing the program. Thanks for that. I think now we will go to Judy. I think we will get to understand the work of the UN Global Compact. Judy, welcome.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being part of this conversation. As you've heard, my name is Judy Njino. I oversee the Global Compact Network Kenya, which is a local network of the United Nations Global Compact. I think I'll be sharing a bit more in detail the work that we do, but I think I'll just take a few minutes to introduce who the UN Global Compact is and the work that we do in the country, in the continent, and globally with the private sector. So the UN Global Compact is actually a call to action to businesses everywhere. And businesses, regardless of their size, the sector in which they operate, the geographical location, or even the complexity of the business. Basically, it's a call to all of you to align your business strategies and operations with universal principles on 4 key issue areas touching on human rights, environment, labor, and anti-corruption. It is also a call to action to align your own business strategies with the Sustainable Development Goals and to take action in advance in advancing other societal goals that are out there, such as the Paris Agreement and others. We were launched in the year 2000 by the former UN Secretary General, the late Dr. Kofi Annan, who basically made a call to action to the private sector to work collaboratively with the UN system through a value-based model to advance the global economy in a trajectory that ensures that we secure the prosperity of our planet, of our people, and of our businesses at the end of the day. We were launched in the year 2000 and have since grown to be the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative, supporting over 10,000 companies across the globe. Also working collectively with the non-business sector, academia, who represent about 3,000 of our membership base. We are present in about 163 countries where our signatories are based, but also we have local footprints in countries where we are currently hosted as country networks, and our responsibility really is to help our country signatories to understand what sustainability means within a local context. So here in Kenya, we, as I said, and I think as I was introduced, we are supporting close to 1,000 companies in the country that have committed to do business as guided by the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. We currently have 10 local networks operating in Africa. We actually just launched one today in Mauritius, which will also be overseeing the Indian Ocean region. So we are really excited to see that the movement around responsible business conduct is growing not only in Kenya, but also in the continent. So the Global Compact essentially is your go-to platform for all entrepreneurs, or the entire private sector and the non-business community, basically to come together on the framework of a universally accepted platform to advance sustainability as guided by a globally accepted blueprint, the SDGs, to help us advance sustainability and our own business goals. We are also your go-to platform where you can come to access best-in-class tools, resources, expertise, and experts, essentially, across all aspects of corporate sustainability. As I have mentioned, we also have a global reach as well as local connections for all entrepreneurs that are looking to scale, that are looking to partner, and that are looking to deepen their engagement around the sustainability agenda. So I look forward to sharing a bit more as we go along, but in a nutshell, that's the UN Global Compact, and it's available to all businesses that are out there. All it requires is a high-level leadership commitment, to sign up and to commit to aligning your business strategies, your processes, as well as your policies to the 10 principles of the Global Compact. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Judy. Quite clear and quite succinct. Being the go-to place for impact, it's quite interesting and amazing what you're doing. And of course, people will be understanding you represent Kenya, East Africa. What about the other African regions? I think there are many Pan-African participants in the call, as in how do they access and relate with you also from other regions of Africa. So I think these are still some questions that will emerge during the discussion. So thank you for that highlighting and a good brief of the work that you do. So next, I think we will invite Amin Sule to tell us about ZACO, how he started, what he has done, and what his enterprise stands for. Welcome, Amin.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity. Let me share a screen. Okay. All right. So good morning to everyone, and then good afternoon to everyone on the other side of the world too. All right. So basically, this is what ZACO does. As you all know, my name is Amin Sule, and ZACO literally means hot coal. It's a merger of two words, which is a Hausa word spoken widely across West African sub-region, that means hot, Zafi, which means hot, and then the word coal, which we all know. So Zako literally means hot coal. And then I will take you through a journey of what we're doing and where we are at the moment. So basically, we are addressing 4 major problems. These are problems that are very worthy of solutions. So as you can see, number 1 is the access to energy problem. Usually when we talk about energy, focus usually shifts to solar energy, hydro energy, electricity in general. But then we forget that we live in an environment where access to primary cooking energy, which is actually very basic to life, is very lacking. So we're addressing the problem of creating an affordable energy solution for people that can really afford whichever scale of the pyramid they fall in. Secondly, as you can see, to access this basic energy, we are forced to cut down thousands of trees, depleting our forests to create either firewood or charcoal. Now, the third one is pollution. We live in an environment in Ghana, for example, where waste management is a problem. So coconut vendors are widely forced to dispose of their coconut waste on the beaches and other places in the city. So Zako picks up all of these coconut waste from the beaches, from the canals in the city, and then we convert it into clean, affordable charcoal for cooking and also for heating. As you can see here, it's got to do with the problem with accessibility. We sell Zako closely to the people. It's very easily accessible every corner of the city you go to, such that you don't really have to spend so much transporting your energy to where you need it. And as you can see on this graph from the World Health Organization, pollution in general actually kills more people than almost all known diseases to us. I mean, indoor air pollution, outdoor air pollution, and all of this contributes to what Zako. We have this young lady here, as you can see in the picture. She is one of 1,000 of coconut vendors in the city who sell after selling their coconuts are forced to dump them by the beaches because there are no proper collection or waste disposal solutions out there for them. So as you can see, this is one particular dump site in one of the beaches in Accra. So basically, Zako, this is how Zako started. We started by, first of all, collecting just a handful of coconut waste, experimenting it in a small tomato can, which worked very well. The next day we moved to a bucket and then to a barrel, getting chimneys for our barrels to see if this idea was very feasible. And we were able to achieve it. Back in the day, some 5-6 years ago, this is how Zako was being produced. We were producing Zako by forcing them into ice cube molds. So when they are dry, we bring them out and then you can see they take the shape of these ice cube molds. We eventually built a factory very far away from town in Accra, in Ghana. As you can see, it was very manual, very labor intensive. And all of this was to convert all the coconuts we see into what we could sell to people as energy at a very affordable price. We went through this process, and the image you're currently seeing is my house. So from the picture that you can see, you can see I dedicated the front of my house or the forecourt of my house where you can see coconut vendors. Those selling in these trolleys and these wheelbarrows would come on a daily basis to dispose of their waste in front of my house. So I was in a way providing a waste disposal solution for them. Good. Still continued, you can see. So on a daily basis, I was collecting as much as 10 to 20 tons of coconut waste just by providing the front of my house to these coconut vendors. You can see from the inside, this is how the house eventually turned into, as you can see here. So we began increasing or opening up the model to a number of coconut vendors, not just in my area, but in almost every community in Accra. And eventually we got to a point where we're collecting as much as 15 to 20 of these trucks you see on your screens on a weekly basis, and then eventually on a daily basis. This is a clear image you see here of one of the beaches. This is all to strengthen the point that waste management is a big problem. But besides that, instead of seeing it as a problem, we can convert it into a solution that solves a problem for hundreds of people, because people actually need energy to cook. We came up with the idea of packaging the charcoal, but then it had to be very different from what everyone was used to. And as you can see here, we packaged them in paper bags and we're selling it to people or through people that are already selling wood-based charcoal. So when you go to a woman like you see in the shot here, you are able to make the difference. So it's either you are buying from what she has opened, which then you have to tie in a black poly bag, or you buy Zaco, which is in a paper bag. Virtually, Zaco went through a number of stages. We improved upon our factory, got a lot of better machines to increase manufacturing. We went through all the processes. I went through E for Impact, got some training. And I should mention that one key thing I always take out from E for Impact project was the fact that you are taught to test your assumptions. Entrepreneurs would always want to go out there and just make money. But with the E for Impact program, you are taught to go out there, test your assumptions. It kept ringing in class, and you definitely had to go out there and test. Through all of these tests, we were able to validate there was a market for our product, and we could really open up. So gradually, we went through all of these processes, and you can see today we have probably one of the largest charcoal processing plants on the continent, with an installed capacity of up to 3,000 kilograms every hour. So on a daily basis, Zaco is selling as much as 10 to 20 tons of charcoal to the local market and also for the export market. Another shot of the new factory, we have increased our staff strength from just myself and 2 other people to now employing about 15 people and an army of waste collectors from on the streets collecting coconut for us, and also hundreds of people selling Zaco on the streets of Accra. So Zaco didn't just look at a problem as it is, but then we came up with a solution. And as you can see here, we're creating jobs. And like we say, you too deserve that smile. Thank you so much. And I hope I fell within the 10 minutes.
No, it's good. Brilliant. Very, very impressive. You know, waste management is a big problem, but it could be a big solution. You know, we even have a quote for the afternoon. I think it will be interesting to know how you're trying to scale your model to other parts, because I think waste is everywhere. But how you could scale, I don't know whether you're thinking about a franchise model, how your innovation could really serve many people in Africa. That would be very interesting to know what you're having in mind. Definitely. Thank you. I mean,
you're welcome.
Yeah. Yes, I think now we'll go to Alessia Jolas, who will usher us into a panel discussion. And Alessia will present to us why and how to measure social impact. And this is based on some research, which she just concluded on some impact entrepreneurs from Kenya. So as we hear Alessia, we are also going to run a poll, and we ask you, all the audience, to respond to this poll on impact measurements, your understanding of it, how you've been doing it, and so on. So Alessia would share her research and her research findings, and we ask you at the end of her presentation to respond to the poll that will be shared. Welcome, Alessia.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here on this panel of really impact-oriented people. It's really impressive what you are doing. So I share my screen. As David mentioned, I'm going to talk about social impact measurement. This afternoon, we have already seen what social impact is through Judy and Amin presentation. I want to go more on the technical bit of it and try to discuss with you what does it mean to measure social impact. It's something that it's usually very challenging. So just to start, what do you think social impact is? Because we heard different definitions by Judy, by Amin, by Fabio. And in general, just to be very general, when we talk about impact, we always mean a change. And this is why I chose this picture where you see a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, because sometimes, you know, people just put numbers on presentations, and it's not enough. This is not impact. It's not enough also for ourselves, also for E4Impact, to say that we have trained this number of entrepreneurs. Is not enough. The important thing is to demonstrate that we are actually changing their condition, and I think we are doing some good work because of what Amin has just presented. So, and when we talk about change and as an impact, we want this change to be long lasting, right? We don't want it to, we want it to last at least for some time. And we can have impact on individuals, on enterprises, for example, in the case of E4Impact, but we can also have impact and so changes at the community level, at the societal level. Of course, if we want to measure change at the societal level, it's going to take us much more time, maybe at least 10 years to change our society. But we still have time, at least for the SDGs, as we still have 10 years to go. Or we can measure the change on the environment, but this is also something quite different when we need to have some skills like engineers have, as reducing carbon emission and these kind of things. But today we just want to focus on social impact. So when we talk about measurement, we want to see how individuals or communities are changing because of our intervention. And how do we measure that? The very important thing is to collect data at different point in time. So you want to collect data about the caterpillar, otherwise you will never be able to assess how the butterfly has changed, okay? So this is something I want really to underline. When we start a social impact measurement project, make sure you have collected baseline data. I'm telling you because at E4Impact we have just finished this pilot study on our social impact, and we didn't have baseline data. So we just had few of them, and that made the process much more difficult. So make sure you collect the data on your caterpillar. And so why we are here today talking about all these amazing things about impact and why is it important to measure impact. I think that you are maybe very familiar with the first two reasons. So to prove to external stakeholders that we are doing great things, or even to improve internally. So we want to improve what we are already doing. But maybe you're not so familiar with the second, with the third and the fourth reason why we should measure impact, which I actually think are the most important. The third is to scale impact, meaning that, so when you measure your impact, you're actually able to communicate not only to maybe people who give you financial resources or other kind of resources, but you're able to communicate with your beneficiaries. So as Amin was saying, when people see the paper bags on the shelf, they probably go for the paper bag. So this is the reason why you have to measure. You're able to show to the beneficiaries that you're doing good, and this makes people join you in your project. And also because we need to definitely create momentum around impact. As I was really discouraged by that slide of about the, are we on track on the SDGs that Judy shown to us before, where basically we are not on track on most of the SDGs. So this is the right point in time where we need to really create momentum on impact. So let's make sure people start to not only doing great things, but also see if these things are really working and are making the change they want to make. Now, as David mentioned, we went through a research on our impact. So I see a lot of messages coming in the chat, but I don't, they're distracting me a little bit, sorry. So we started to do this social impact measurement project in January this year. We started in January, and we went through all these stages that I now will really quickly go through. So about how do we measure impact? There are at least 6 stages. The first is definitely to plan. So if we have decided that we want to measure our impact, the first questions we ask to ourselves are, but which type of change do I want to create and on who? So you have these two very useful tools, the stakeholder map and the theory of change, to help you in this phase. But secondly, you don't want to be auto-referential in your social impact measurement. This is why you should go to engage the stakeholders from the very beginning. And this means you go to them and you ask, which changes have you experienced, both positive and negative? You're also very interested in understanding negative impacts on your beneficiaries. Then you prepare for your data collection, and here is the point when you should collect baseline data. And then you analyze your data for sure. You measure the change, and of course, not all the change that you can measure on your beneficiaries depends on your intervention. There are many other reasons why that change has happened. So in this phase, you also need to make sure that you calculate also how others have contributed to the change that you are measuring. And the last step, you verify your results. So you go back to your stakeholders and ask them, okay, I have these results. Do you agree with what I found? And now I'm going to show you very few of the results that we achieved through our first social impact measurement process. Okay, so first of all, we did our social impact measurement only on Kenya. So we focus on the Kenya MBA and in 5 editions. So basically on almost 100 entrepreneurs. And out of these 100 entrepreneurs, only 46 responded to our survey, but this is a really good number. It's not so common in researchers to have this response rate. And this for us was also a good sign of the fact that we still have good relationships with our alumni. And I show you very few results. So 31 businesses were created in these 5 years by our alumni. And in total, this means that 33% of the entrepreneurs who starts our MBA with a business idea is able to officially register it at the end of the program. In terms of the impact on their performances, what we identify is that 22% of our alumni were able to access to financial resources. This is because, as Fabio mentioned at the beginning, we put them in contact with a network of consultants, of investors, and they also become they get pitch skills through the MBA. This actually helped them to gain also financial resources, but also they get a lot of skills like financial planning and many other hard skills. In fact, so this is the 22% who access to financial resources, and before the MBA, so this is the importance of baseline data, only the 5% of them had access to financial resources. Another interesting data is the increase in revenues. They declare a 25% increase in revenues after the MBA. And of course, increase in revenue is a complex change, and we calculated that only 25 to 50% of this increase can be attributed to the MBA. But in any case, this is still a good result. This metric is more about the impact we had on the society, because we are calculating how many employees, many job places were created out of the alumni. And we got 396 jobs created, which is an average of 9 employees per enterprise. I mean, we're over the average. And very interestingly, half of it are women, and 75% are both women and youth. We also have some impact on people who got back to employment after the MBA. So they didn't become entrepreneurs, but they are still employed in organization. And the 93% of that was able to access a better job position with a 25% of income increase. And this is the last result I show you, because I think it's really important. We compare, on your left, there are entrepreneurs, and 84% of them was able to improve on their financial and their social performances. And on the right, you have employed people. 100% of them told they are more social impact oriented after the MBA. So this also is a sign of, okay, we are actually maybe trying and achieving and creating this momentum for impact that we want to create. Thank you.
Very impressive. And the butterfly connects very well with the impact journey. Yeah, I think you've had very, very impressive results there. As in 84% improved social performance, 100% now oriented towards impact. I think that's really interesting. And many other parts that you've managed to discuss. I probably the audience will be asking you questions too. So I think for our panelists, I think drawing from what Alessia just presented, that was really very interesting on why, how, and the process of doing it. I'd like you to ask you just a follow-up of questions for each and every one of you. So for Fabio Petroni, how have you as a program embedded impact measurement? How did you do it in your program? Is it embedded? Is it mainstream impact measurement in your program? So that's for you, Fabio. For Judy, I would like to know how, as the UN Global Compact, you go about it. How do you actually do it? And for Amin Sule, I'd like to know how it was really specifically useful for your own enterprise to measure impact. Did you see any growth in revenues? Did you get more partnerships? Has it been useful? So I think we go with Fabio and then Judy, and then we came to Amin.
Yeah, absolutely. There are two levels for us. The first of all, there is help entrepreneurs measuring their impact. This way, we have mainstream impact measurement across the MBA program. The very first training session that we have is around the business model canvas. And what we do is to help entrepreneurs embed impact measurement, but positive and negative impact into the very business model. What does that mean? That means that social impact or environmental impact is not going to be an accessory, something ancillary to what you do. It's going to be embedded across your business model. This way, the entrepreneurs always keep in mind the dimension of social environmental impact as they are implementing their businesses, and most importantly, as they are delivering value to their customers. So they realize impact is a way to gain a license to operate, is a way to gain good publicity, is a gain to access a niche market, is a gain to access niche investors, like impact investors. And I'm sure Ramin could be telling us many stories about this. On the other level, we give them tools how to measure impact. So in this case, it's not just about making their businesses sustainable, it is also measuring the impact they're having. And for this, we have put together a specific tool, which is basically drawn from the logical framework, or also known as the impact map, in such a way that each entrepreneur can very easily measure their impact. And then, of course, we also do measure our impact. So as Alessia was saying, we try to have a baseline as soon as the entrepreneurs are joining in. We try to do a baseline, and then we try to keep track of their progresses, of them becoming a butterfly. For us, that is a very strong selling point, because if I can't tell that our alumni, such as they started out from their backyard, and now they are running the largest organic charcoal factory, that's a very good selling point for us as well.
Great. There, clear, Fadi. Yeah, Judy, to you.
Yes, thank you, David. For us at the UN Global Compact, impact is a critical aspect of the work that we undertake. And as I projected the slides, you could see clearly that as we are working towards the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals, we are actually not on track. And the reason for this is because as private sector, as governments, and the entire ecosystem that's working around this space, we are not doing enough. We are not doing our jobs at the scale and the level in which we need to be able to move the needle, to really achieve the SDGs as they are. So at the Global Compact, our work revolves around supporting companies to move beyond the initial commitment that they have made to advance the principles of the Global Compact. And we have articulated an engagement model for companies to take a journey through which they can be able to move from the commitment all the way to the impact stage. And this really starts with them assessing the risks and the opportunities and the impacts across the different Global Compact 10 principal areas of human rights, environment, labor, and anti-corruption, and seeing the extent to which their business operations have both negative and positive impacts around these goals. Then we ask them to define, goals, strategies, and policies that would then help to really advance specific goals that they've set for themselves to basically advance impact. And it's also critical that they implement these goals and policies in their own business operations, in their partnerships, and in the various strategies that they deploy. And more importantly, we ask them to put in place clear mechanisms that they can use to measure and monitor the progress that they are making. We appreciate that companies that participate join at different levels of advancements in the sustainability journey. There are those that are learners, and there are those that are really challenging the status quo, and they're pushing their business models, like Zakol Energy has just demonstrated so ably. And we also request them to communicate publicly the progress that they are making, and to engage extensively with their stakeholders, but also being responsive to the various issues that their stakeholders represent to them. So we follow a very structured model in the way we support businesses, and we work with them through this journey. But what's interesting is this year actually marks 20 years of the UN Global Compact and 75 years of the UN. And what we have discovered in this particular corporate sustainability space and this impact space essentially is that we are not seeing enough, like I said, impact and transformational action from the business community and from the entrepreneurs to really help us close the gap. And so really we are at a crossroad and really asking entrepreneurs and the business community out there to really look at the goals and look at them critically and begin to devise strategies that will help us leapfrog and come up with additional innovative solutions that will help bridge the gaps around the SDGs. And I think Zakol have really demonstrated what scale could look like and what impact essentially looks like. But we need a critical mass of all of us out there to really follow suit. So at the Global Compact, one of the things we are also doing is that we have devised a number of programs around accelerating impact across some of the SDG areas that we are seeing, really lack of progress. And in fact, we are going back on progress on some of these issues. So work around climate, closing the gender gap, as well as driving entrepreneurship and innovation within the business. We are working through a long-term project with our companies to ensure that they're able to take more meaningful action and they're able to push their ambition within the goals that they set for themselves to be able to deliver impact at the end of the day. And we hope that in the next 10 years, as we rush to to meet the deadline of the SDGs, we'll be able to move the needle around some of these issues. So
Sure.
it's an ongoing journey for sure.
All right, very, very, very good. Yeah, I think you've mentioned some things. You've mentioned about programs. I think also in the chat, it's possible to just share with every participant what programs you're speaking about. You also spoke about a structured model for supporting entrepreneurs walk the journey, maybe even how that could look like. I think we can also use the chat to share a bit more information. And if there are any links, any reference, anything that the participants could tap into, that is really welcome. Yes, thanks, Judy.
Yeah.
Tina, yes.
All right. So it is very useful, very, very important to really measure your impact as a business or as an entrepreneur, especially in our space where we operate as impact entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs. Because in the first place, how do you know whether you're doing well or not? How do you even know whether you are meeting set targets or not? And mind you, to be able to grow as a business, you definitely need some injection of capital. You will need some investment. And in all of these, you will need evidence. You will need proof as to whether you're really making a lot of impact as you stipulated in the beginning of your business. Mind you, the goal of every business is to achieve two things, either impact or profit. So to be able to make sure you are really achieving these two things, the impact or the profit, you really need to look back, retrace your steps and see if you're really achieving whatever target you set for yourself from the onset. So for us, for example, at ZACO, some of the parameters we address, like you saw in the presentation, was we want to make sure coconut waste, at least organic waste, will be properly managed in our areas of operation. So having been in operation for all these years, we should be able to look back and say, thanks to ZACO, thanks to our operations, now 100 coconut vendors know exactly what to do with their waste when they are done selling. If we are not able to increase or value or put a value on the number of waste that we are collecting from these people, then we know we have failed in the first place. Number two, we target that we are going to sell to the local market. Who constitutes the local market? The woman that cooks on charcoal on a daily basis, okay? Are we able to meet this woman's needs? Is she able to use our product without complaint? What are her biggest pains? Her biggest pains are maybe having access to her source of fuel. Is it able to light faster? Is it meeting her exact needs? If it's not able to, then she is forced to go back to using wood charcoal. Now, it is based on us measuring all of these parameters that we'll be able to know, today we produce 100 bags, did they all sell? If yes, is there anything we can improve? If no, why weren't we able to sell all 100 bags? All of these measurements, all of these parameters will now inform us. Now we have, for example, 100 people that are now using our products on a daily basis. And based on these, we know that we have reduced deforestation by a certain number, because ideally these people would have gone back to cutting trees to use either as firewood or as charcoal. You get my point? So measuring impact or measuring the impact of your business is very critical, very, very important. If I come to you, David, as an investor,
did it have an effect on your bottom line? Because as an entrepreneur, this is what they'll be asking themselves mainly.
Of course,
Yeah.
It does have an impact on the bottom line, because mind you, all of this got to do with the volume of sales. We are only able to measure or see the impact of our business based on the number of bags that are sold. And in doing all of these sales, we get to realize that now we are reducing the pollution or the waste, coconut waste pollution on the streets. Now we are making some impact in the lives of the women that are using our product, at least by not inhaling all the dangerous fumes that comes from firewood and wood-based charcoal, and also from deforestation. So like I was saying, if I come to you, David, as an investor, and I want to say, I need money, David may be an impact investor who is more focused on the impact his investment is going to make. Zarko will be able to make all of these points to you to convince David that you're not just giving Zarko money to grow numbers, but you're giving Zarko money to grow numbers that are related to all of these parameters we have stated. Because with the growth of Zarko sales follows the growth of all of these impact points that we have set ourselves. So it's very critical, very, very important to measure your impact as business, not just as social entrepreneurs.
What happens if you put as bottom line, like a triple bottom line, that you're not only looking at yourself from a financial bottom line, but you're also looking at environmental and social. I think this is, and that's what you're saying. And I think also to tap on to the impact investors is another win that you've seen happening. Yeah, that's key. And I wouldn't know whether you might feel comfortable to share some names of some impact investors, that if there was any entrepreneur here who has an impact or is doing sort of a similar business or an impactful business, they could try to reach out to. Just from your own experience, and the ones you've seen are very key and like to support impact investors. It could be you could.
I know of the Acumen Fund.
Yeah.
I know Acumen is doing a lot in the impact space. In Ghana, for example, we have the InnoHub, which is also doing very well. The E for Impact itself, I think part of it, I don't know if our listeners will be able to throw some lights on it. They have some support for social related businesses too. So that also counts. There are quite a number of social or impact related funds out there that support the kind of businesses we do and the kind of businesses participants are willing to go into. I mean, we are available anytime.
For the panelists, if you have some names, you can throw in the chat and someone could benefit with. Fabio, maybe you know some names and you can put it there in the chat for the benefit of everyone. Yeah. I think Alessia, we also have a question for you. This is coming from Jerome Ramazani. He says that the word impact looks accountable, like it seems it's hard to account for impact. So he's still asking, how can you measure it? I know that you already tackled it, and maybe also sharing your slides could be a good thing for someone who knows how to measure it. So he's also asking another question: is impact a sustainable change, or is it a holistic change? I don't know how you could say about that, whether it is a sustainable change or is it holistic. You could maybe quickly comment or try to give a response.
This is a very difficult question. First of all, no, I think that there is a big debate around what impact actually is. And I think that we also, the only way we have is to contextualize. So if I am a trainer, if I am a business, if I'm an NGO, if I'm a development organization, probably to me impact will be something different. As you just heard by Amin, if impact is need to be completely related to sales. For us, as we are a training organization, it is completely related to the progress we are having on our organization and the impact we have on the society. So it actually depends on the scope of the change you want to create. So I don't know if it's holistic. It depends on your view of the word, I think, and what you're doing. The most important thing is that you clarify from the very beginning of the measurement, the scope of the measurement. And starting from that, since you identify where do you want to go, everything can be done. But, sorry. David, I didn't remember the first question, sorry.
No, this other question was whether impact is sustainable change, or is it holistic change? And maybe also sometimes when Judy or Fabio will be commenting, you could still comment on this question.
I think I replied by saying that it depends on what you're doing and on the scope you put on your impact.
All right, great. I think the next question, we still have a short around 6 minutes as in to go, is around the presentation Fabio made. I think today's panel discussion was around building sustainable and impactful training programs. So for Judy, for Alessia, for Amin Sule, do you think we already have this kind of enough programs in Africa? How should they be so that they're different? I think many universities have been launching programs here and there, and there's so many things happening in different ecosystems. As in, how can impactful program, if you're to use one word, what should it have to say that it is impactful? And having in mind Fabio's presentation.
Was that for
we
me?
can start with you, Judy. Or I mean, yeah, go.
I think I'll pass it to you, Judy.
Okay, Judy.
Okay, I think in Africa, there's a wealth of programs around this space. Looking even just at our work at the Global Compact, I think the gap that we are seeing is that we do not have enough entrepreneurs and businesses really plugged in. So on the one hand, we have platforms that curate very good resources. They have resources also that entrepreneurs can basically leverage to start and scale their businesses, but there's still an informational gap that exists on where to go for this kind of support. And that's why I think the conversation we are having today is so critical, and also just for all of us to share the knowledge and the contacts that we know are available around this space. So really, I think it's a conversation that needs to keep happening, and for entrepreneurs to know that they are not alone, and that there are support systems that are available for them in their journey. I think for us, really, we are looking to be as inclusive as possible, and that's why even as I started, I said we are looking to support any type of enterprise that's out there, regardless of how complex your business is, but as long as you have that vision and focus that you're seeking to deliver impact beyond just the bottom line, and that you're looking at greater issues that are in the society and looking at how to use your own business model to advance this. So I think we are at a space where there's a lot more that's going on. There's a lot more in terms of awareness creation that is happening, but this needs to go a step further and really bring everybody into this space so that we can be able to move at a much faster speed, much faster pace. Thank you.
I mean, one word, Alessia, or a sentence on how the programs could be so that they can have more impact.
I think most of these programs should be a little accessible. From what I have identified, I don't think we should just limit it to academic courses only, because I think there's something called Africanacity. A lot of Africans actually have that zeal to do something for themselves. If we could break it down to not just in schools and colleges, but also in communities, that would have people that are really interested to also take benefit from it.
Yeah, and as Fabio and Alessia are responding, for all the audience, the poll has been launched. So if you can respond to the poll that is there, you can fill it up quickly. That would really be welcome. Fabio, you can give your comment, and then Alessia.
Yeah, I believe I do like a lot what Amin is saying. I would like to add another one, which is the financial dimension. In joining those programs and in exiting those programs. The issue is that when you want to work with entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs or young businesses, they usually cannot pay for the training they need. So those who provide that kind of support have to sustain themselves somehow another way. If we were in the US or if we were in the EU, what you would do, you go to a bank and you say, hey, why don't you put up some students loan schemes for us? And they would gladly do that. We don't have this in most of Africa. We have it in Sudan because of their culture, they have it. But you go to Ghana, they laugh at you. I know this. You go to Uganda, they laugh at you. And that's a big limitation. And this is something we need to join forces to convince, let me say, the financial community in Africa that students' loans are possible, are profitable even, and should be addressed to entrepreneurs. And the second thing is investments. So now Amina's been very good in raising capital, but the issue is that there is an unbelievable gap between the amount of money the average entrepreneur needs to start a company and the tickets that investors give you. When we talk impact investors, sometimes the minimum they give you is 1 million. Sometimes is $500,000. It's a lot of money. If I'm trying to start a company at the beginning, I may need 100,000, maybe even less. And there is no way I can, especially if I'm starting or I'm still at an early stage, there's no way I can provide a track record strong enough to eat into that plate, right? To go for the $500,000. Amin knows that. Before he got there, he had to invest himself. He had to find other ways around. Here again, because if you were again in the US, you go to a bank and say, hey, I need 50 grand. Hey, here you go, more or less. But that's not happening in Ghana, not for sure. They will ask you 30% interest rate a year, right? Kenya is a little bit better, but that's the other thing we have to look at. So probably you want to join forces, advocating with the financial system, whether they can do something for startups and small businesses in Africa from that point of view.
Alessia?
I would add that alumni are a really important resource for training programs. So now, for example, if we did for Impact now, we have a big community of alumni, and they can be a resource in the way they can help the new students of the program. And as we mentioned that we have these financial problems across Africa, alumni can be themselves investors in new entrepreneurs who are joining the program. Maybe Amin in a couple of years will be able to finance new startups coming out from our MBA program. So yeah, this is one point I'd like to add, like alumni communities that are something that is really fundamentally in the US, for example, or also Europe a little bit, but in the US are very strong resources for training programs and universities.
Great, thank you. There's one more last question. How do we increase the measurement of impact among rural social enterprises? So I don't know whether Judy and Alessia, you want to take that very quickly. And as soon as you finish, because of time, because actually we are at the last minute of today's event, I will then ask you, each and every one of you, to give a parting shot. As in, what would you tell all the audience who've been listening today? So maybe just, maybe Judy, you can respond to that question, and then we can just do a parting shot, all of us, to all the audience who've listened to us this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you, Stella, for that question. And like I alluded to earlier, there are very many tools and frameworks that are available, at no cost for entrepreneurs to use to begin to understand how to measure impact and how to have impact. And I'd like to just mention one particular tool that we have actually developed with B-Lab globally. It's called the SDG Action Manager, and I would encourage you to go to the unglobalcompact.org website to access this particular tool. And it's very easy to use, and it's tailored for any type of business, large or small. And the tool essentially allows you to understand where your starting point is, of course, using the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is really the blueprint that we have adopted as a global community to see where we can have the largest impact around critical issues. It's also based on your company profile. So regardless of the sector or business model that you're operating, you're able to understand and see what impact looks like at that level. And again, it gives you a very clear view of how your business can create positive impact, but also understanding where negative impacts might actually arise within your own business operation. So it allows you to also find ways to offset what negative impacts could arise as a result of your own journey towards creating the positive impact that you're looking at. As well, it also helps you to collaborate across your business. So it's not just something that you'll be able to use within one function of the organization, but you're able to have conversations across the business to see where you can maximize and where the opportunities are around maximizing impact. So I would really encourage you to just take a look at the UN Global Compact website. It has a wide array of tools and resources that are free for all enterprises that are out there. And particularly this tool that we have developed that really has been a key ask from the market on how we can begin to measure impact. So just have a look at it, the SDG Action Manager. I will put the link on the chat as well.
Okay, great. I think there is two more questions, and I think you can put the answers in the chat just because of time as you're making your your parting shots. And it was to you, Judy. This is the question: does UN Global Compact fund concepts with zero evidence? So maybe it's not clear whether, as UN Global Compact, you also have a funding component. So you could put that kind of answer on the chat for everyone. And Fabio, this is a question to you. Says banks do not readily fund startups who have no collateral. They have no traction, financial statement, business plans. How do organizations like yourself help these viable startups to go around these obstacles? So maybe a comment, or you can put also an answer on the chat.
Yeah, I'll comment as my parting shot.
Okay, great.
My comment is gonna be an experience I share from Sudan. During the first edition of the MBA program, we had a very, very powerful entrepreneur who with little money was trying to manufacture electric tricycles in Khartoum. So 4 friends of his who were doing the MBA program as well, they thought that was a great idea. And they also had some little money to start a company. And also they had a business project. They would go to a bank asking for money, and the bank wouldn't give them any funds because exactly they don't have any financial traction, any track record, and so on and so forth. So the 5 of them, they come together and they establish a holding company, and each of them put some money into this holding company, the money that they were hoping to invest in their own company. By pooling the money, the 5 of them, they reached a kind of tipping point. And they said, okay, let's pick the company which is ready to go among the 5 of us. And that was the electric tricycle one. And they decided to put all the money into that company with the contractual promise that that company will be sharing that much of their revenues back to the holding company to start up the second company, the next most developed project, let me say. So this was 2019. They were able to start a company. You can look it up to the internet. It's called Al-Shabaab Electric Tricycles. And with the money they were able to start generated during 2019 through this company, they started the second company, which is a mechanic clinic, which is mainly serving the electric tricycle company. And this way they are trying to create, to establish and to launch all the companies. I think the best medicine right now, since the UN found a way to convince the banks in Africa to behave differently, the best medicine to the lack of financial option is really the entrepreneurial spirit and mindset of Africa's youth, which is really unmatched around the world.
Great. Very, very good. Also, in terms of a parting shot, I think bootstrapping by teams is really a good answer. Alessia, your parting shots, and then Amin, and then Judy.
Well, again, I think that we have understood the importance of measuring impact today. So I would like just to close by saying, remember that when we want to measure impact, we are trying to measure a change, what we can change with our intervention. And yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Amin?
All right, so I would like to say just one thing. We just have to be intentional about our success and then our progress as a continent. We need to really own and play a part in the development of the continent as a whole. It belongs to all of us. We actually stand to gain much more than everyone else when we have a developed continent. Thank you.
Great. Beautiful. Judy?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'd just like to leave everyone with a thought that even as we continue to try to recover from the pandemic, really it's a dress rehearsal and a classic example for us to realize that as businesses, we cannot thrive in a world where we still continue to experience high levels of poverty, where the environment is in distress, and we have high levels of inequality and basically instability. And that I think going forward, the entrepreneurs will have to take up their role in this space to ensure that we recover better and recover stronger as we go forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. It's a question for Fabio. There is a question about what is the MBA program about, where is it offered, and so on. So if you have a link that you can put on the chat, you could just go ahead and do it.
I'll do that immediately.
Yeah. So as we come to the end of this session, I think that we really take this opportunity to to thank the organizers of this event. That's Tangazo University College and Ashoka, and the team from UMAC that have also organized the logistics. So Patrick and Gilbert, we really thank you for setting this up. We also want to sincerely thank the panelists who have been here with us this afternoon. So Fabio, Alessia, Amin, Judy, we thank you for sharing your very beautiful insights and also opportunities for the participants who have been who have been connected to tap into. So we look forward to the main conference, the 4th AACOSE conference, that will be on the 27th and 28th of November. So if any of our participants today has any question that was not addressed, that was not answered, as in you have more thoughts, as in you're really invited to be part of the conference, and some of any pending questions or other opportunities that you're looking forward to can be answered to during the conference. So thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon or morning, depending on which part of the world you are in. And we look forward to meeting you again at the conference. Goodbye.